Hi, Shashank. Good morning. Can you hear me? Hi, Shashank. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Hello.
Great, great, Shashank. Shashank, I made you the presenter. So I'm assuming you should be able to share your screen. Can you just check?
You couldn't hear me?
I'm saying, can you try and share your screen?
Sorry, I didn't get you.
Shashank, can you try
Yeah,
to share
Rashid,
your
can you
screen?
hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Can you try to share your screen?
Is it visible?
Yeah, perfect.
Chanakya, is my voice loud and clear?
Yes, Shashank. So, Shashank, we already have about 28 attendees have joined in. So, let's start the session in the next 2 or 3 minutes.
Cool.
All right, great.
Okay, guys, let's start. I mean, we had hit at our timing and ample amount of attendees we have right now. Thank you, guys. Thank you for joining all for today's session. And very good morning to you guys. Today, we're going to talk about modern and secure workplace with your Office 365 environment. The agenda of today's session would be Azure Information Protection that helps you to protect your data from being stolen or being, you know, it might be good loosen. Intune and conditional access for your mobile management devices, encryption of DLP policies, for your data loss prevention, WD highlights that nothing but a traditional PDI that's come up with enhanced feature with Microsoft and short walkthrough to a CASB that's a web under product of Microsoft, which nothing but a tech-savvy favorite. So let's begin with understanding an Azure Information Protection. Before going further, I mean, let's understand the risks which have we have mitigated during the pandemic. I mean, it was all of a sudden that somehow we have stuck in the home and started working from home, where people were trying to work in unfashioned way, and organization has their own challenges. While people working from home, they were, you know, IT organization were used to have challenges like a data protection. How is my environment is secure or not? Yes, it was achievable through M365 by deploying Azure Information Protection, and it is manageable by applying through a Windows Information Protection. Both are a different verticals, I would say, but yes, it can be pop up all together on one single platform. The prioritization of the risks, which are mitigated through this pandemic. I mean, users are driving crazy and they are working from n number of devices, logging from 2 3 2 3 devices, I would say, simultaneously. But this prioritization needs to be made earlier because we have a greater risk to lose the data accidentally. We have a risk within the environment where threat could be, it might be external or internal, but this analysis should be happen within the environment. Or I can say the risk of data falling in the wrong hands. I mean, we can simply forward the data without knowing the sensitivity of the document. So it might leads you to leak your data, or it might lead you to damage your own environment. But all of a sudden, user might not, unaware of the situation, or I would say, the user might not concern about data security. But organization need to be have, the way it should be secure. So prioritization has done in four different parts, where device protection, data separation, leak protection, and sharing caring are taken place. When I talk about a device protection, a device may be loose, stolen, or can be damaged, or can be thrashed. So post stolen or post lost your data, user might be concerned about their data. So for that, wipe and retire policy has been implemented so that whatever your corporate data is landing on your devices could be wiped out simply with help of that. When we talk about a data separation, there might be a chances where so many of dump file you could be deployed, or I would say derived from your older version, that can be togetherly dumped on your devices, that needs to be separated altogether by a data labeling, that is from a traditional services which is provided by Active Directory, that has derived to new version called Azure Information Protection. A data separation could be done together, and it could be you know segregated all together and protect the data based on their sensitivity. A leakage. When I talk about a leakage, when user could try to access their data through n number of devices, or they would try to download from any of the devices they are logging from. So the unauthorized user maybe try to steal this data from data or a device which does not belong to the organization. So for that, Intune and a mobile management device is capable to restrict the user to log in from unsanctioned device. Means you can restrict user or device based on the policy which maybe you applied on Intune. In other words, sharing and protection could be done by using Intune and conditional access, where your outside organization employee, or I would say a third party vendor, can take control of your organization resources. You can restrict also over there. So that means your information protection service helping you to prioritize your data basis on how sensitive it is. But there are some certain services which offered by Microsoft are helping it to achieve a target, where BitLocker is an agent which helps you for the highest number of encryption layer while sending a data, while traveling from a network, or I would say while traveling from one domain to another. Azure Rights Management is another service which helps you to, you know, to restrict from accessing the application, to restrict from accessing certain resources, and the limit the user from what it has to, certainly, or certain amount of limited period time that application has access or not. And Office 365 is a complete suite. It brings you a complete security over one single umbrella, where not only API but also there are many security aspects that come together which helps you to protect your environment from external threats. When we talk about a Windows information protection, that is an enhanced feature of Windows 10, where when it combines with Azure Information Protection, when we talk about a data separation, it helps Azure Information Protection to segregate the data which may be dumped on your OneDrive or maybe on your file share. So these are these few aspects we need to consider for a data protection privacy to be deployed, where corporate and personal data need to be separated, and it should be protected through only a local device, or I would say it can be stolen through your removable storage. We can set a policy for attack surface reduction, where any number of threat or any USB logger could steal your data and achieve unnecessary action or unwelcome event to your premises. To prevent from unauthorized applications, you have a policy where you could not simply copy paste your data from your organization account to your personal account. I would love to demonstrate you and take a tour to the Azure Information Protection, or I would say a service that Azure portal brings you at your desk. Post completion of few sites, let me take you to that web portal where you could experience how labelings and protection could take care. We have seamless integration of with this platform and n number of apps that might not be uh, Windows application, but it might be a third party application that could be integrate with your AIP. Well, let's understand one more point over here: how the protection flows grows through data and how the life cycle would taken care. I mean, starting from user onboarding to your organization and to release it. I mean, till it retire, how this life cycle goes. Let's say, for example, when some organization personnel or an employee is onboarded, he would assign to one policy or key from which he is going to log in through his devices. But when it comes to a data access, we should consider a network location from where it's going to take access. Whereas Windows Information Protection would be part of that, where it helps you to authenticate while you're entering into your on-premises or a cloud environment. That is nothing but your corporate organization. But these are the apps and certain number of corporate resources where you can have access to your data, or you can manage though from your personal devices. Whether it is your personal or your corporate resources, you can differentiate it between them. But the certain policies which needs to be applied by the IT administrator has to incorporate it over there. Well, when I talk about the protection and the maintenance, where Azure Information Protection Service bring you to protect a whole scenario, whole data which may be lying on your file share or your OneDrive or maybe on Exchange server. When users are going to be retired, post accessing, post having hands on premises resources, we can simply do a data wipe or can be delete their corporate resources. The whole identity could be revised or blocked instantaneously over there by simply unenrollment. This life cycle would be permanent for every employee who is going to be on board on your organization. Well, let's understand how the security landscape has changed and how these risks are mitigated. But the EMS suite itself bring you, all together a security features where identity is a major concern. When I say the identity, it's not only your corporate identity; it could be your a vendor or third party resources which have access to your application. That is your identity. It is derived from native version of LDAP and Kerberos of Active Directory, and it can be synced with your on-premises data also. I mean, disconnected forest version of your on-premises could be connected to this identity management, and a single identity could log in through a multiple devices. That may be Android, desktop, or it would be iOS, or it would be tablet. This identity can be protected over a single term, or device management is also possible to Intune device management, where applications can be used for the single sign-on. I mean, to say over here is you can not only access the Microsoft application, but there are more cloud apps which are present over the web. That is a SAP-based application. One single identity is manageable through these applications, which are SaaS-based, which maybe you can synchronize with different applications and data. Well, when we talk about a transition cloud mobility, there are new landscape and new threats where the attacks could be taken place. When we need to defend it with many security features which represented by a EMS suite, that is enterprise mobility suite. There are moreover when we talk about the challenges which is faced by IT administrator. In somehow user has their own expectation, IT has their own challenges. Users are willing to work from anywhere. They are familiar with their current application version, and also they are wanting to collaborate and share with the team's point. I mean, they are working in a fashion way, I would say, over here. Like, for example, user are trying to access their corporate resources through a Windows and an Android phone, but IT administrator has restricted a policy or wanting to access their corporate resources through the allowed and permitted device. So users would not agree over that. To overcome these challenges, Microsoft has introduced a mobile management device called Intune, and the feature to control this management, I mean the restriction which is users do not want to permit, and the challenges which IT has to limit the users, to protect the data and secure from outside threats. To achieve this altogether, Intune and the conditional access is brings you on in front of your desk. That will help you to understand. Let's take in one example where we have deploying a conditional access over here. Let's say a users are accessing their corporate resources, cloud-based applications through Windows 10 device. Microsoft Intune is a web-based tool where you have set a policy. Without compliance and trusted device, Intune would not allow to access your corporate resources. Though your identity and password are correct, but the device management would firstly check the policy which is set by the administrator. Then it would allow to access you cloud-based applications. Majorly to understand conditional access, these slides will bring you more clarity over here. When I say a conditional access, it's simply if and else statement where employee could allow or block or allow or restrict the user from entering to your corporate environment. Certain number of department, I mean admin or cells, could access the environment while they're working from home. In other words, IT can only access when they are into on premises, or I would say in their network perimeter. Another example of conditional access is here, I would say trusted and device compliant. I mean, it might be possible that IT administrator stated for only iOS version of the devices that could have access to their corporate resources or the web-based application which may be lying on their data center. But it has a limited access, although you can whitelist the user from accessing from a very physical location or a virtual location, that may be possible. Also, you can restrict the users from impossible travel activity. It might be a chances that user can use a VPN and present a fake location. you can, conditional access can derive this condition and, restrict the user over there that there is an impossible travel event has occurred and you need to force reset a password for logging again. That means you have, geographical location there. You can whitelist ISP. You can define it from which certain ISP you could access your corporate resources or not. It may be a device or compliance trusted where Android, iOS, and other operating systems are allowed or not. To understand conditional access more better way, let's take one another example where user might be concerned about their personal data also. I mean, when IT administrators say we have, control to your mobile management device, or we have a control to all of your personal device also. Although you have a control to your personal device, but we cannot control. I mean, Indian itself cannot control your uh, personal data. It is only the corporate data that could be manageable through Indian portal, but you could have look what, is to be there to segregate, where Outlook, OneDrive, and Word, Excel, PowerPoint might be have, another application installed on your personal devices. Intune has a capability to segregate it. I mean, what application is corporate's device belongs to what applications has corporate provided, and what else which may be lying on your personal devices. For this, let's take one example where a user trying to act smartly and he is trying to, copy data from their personal device to the personal storage, where though they have multiple identity or maybe, multiple logins from a single device like their personal accounts, user may try to copy a Word file to this personal data. Sorry, is not achievable over here, since we have set it a compliance that you could not simply copy and paste it your personal device. User may try to paste it on their personal storage. It might be similar to your corporate storage, like in SkyDrive or OneDrive. No, that is also not allowed. But if an employee try to copy a corporate resources to their corporate storage, yes, it is achievable. I mean, the way administrator has set a policy on that way, it would take. What I meant to say over here is, although you have a personal and a corporate apps, but a mobile application management could be possibly achievable through Intune and the conditional access. Well, let's take in one more example where Azure Information Protection would takes you to, the better understand when we talk about a hybrid model or the environment which has on-premises or a cloud data also, where perimeter protection is major concern over here, and a device management that helps you to protect your data from, from external threats. AIP labels your landed or late data on file server or file share or exchange might be, but a hybrid data which might be harder to protect from the new normal, that could be, possibly a challenge for IT administrator. But AIP and the autopilot mode of a Windows desktop, or I would say a Windows feature, that helps you to predefine your policies and predefine workload, that you could simply protect your data on initial stage. The auto labeling and the scanner which might be running on your premises, that helps you to identify whatever document is lying on there, and based on their sensitivity, based on their numbers, or for an example, if a document contain credit card number or a sensitive bank document that needs to be leaked over, the or exchange over the emails. So that may be labeled automatically by AIP with help of AIP scanner, and while transferring or while user trying to copy or while user trying to send it over the email, you can rust it over there. So let's understand the classification, how labeling could be done and achievable altogether. You can see post labeling, the sensitivity of the any document would be as in administrator or predefined by the users. Let me take you to the Azure portal where the labeling is occur. Yeah. So here I have open one portal where labels can be magnified. It's a simply Azure Information Protection service. That brings you unified labeling over here. Unified labeling is such a feature which can be mapped through your M365 portal also. I mean, AIP is an Azure feature that is collaborating with M365 security features. I mean, when you publish the labels or when you publish this unified labeling things by simply activating this service, it would incorporate in M365 all domain. So policies and label could be defined over here. Like I said, it would take time to appear over here. Yeah. So the labels which I have predefined has in front of you over here, and whatever color or the combination which may I configure while accessing the flowchart, or I would say while accessing a portal, that would come in front of you. So the unified label thing which I was talking about, I have applied to all the M365 portal. Let me take you to the protection.office.com where security and compliance feature are can be configured. Yeah, okay. So here I have where sensitive label are created. Let me create one label over here and how this can be published and could be configured. Let's say a demo label. Sensitive display name would be test. What would be the description of the user? I mean, it is the tagline or the message things which appears in front of the users. I mean, when you apply the label and publish it, when the user which belongs to this area, or I would say whatever you have published to limited number of users, that description would appears in front of them. So it might be a corporate data, I would say. And whatever the description for the administrator, I mean, the way I am right now defining, that is, I would say, important data. The scope, that is the files and emails I need to encrypt, and it label should be done for the when emails are going to the exchange. Encryption should be marked all the way and the content of the file also. Let's say do not remove encryption. Let's keep it as it is. And the default setting which I apply currently, I'm not opting option called auto labeling. That's how the labeling should be achievable. And yes, I am here about to finish my labeling things, and I have created label where it is called data label, and it's more, result to going to be published over the emails, or I would say the file server, which where the data might be lying. Yeah, post creating this data or a label, I want to publish it. Yeah, through publish, I can define how many number of users I want to publish for. Let's say take a group or a certain people where I want to publish these labels. I will take a few of them, and this data is going to publish the test label which I have created. Here I am selecting again demo corporate data. Yep. Yes. So the test label would be appear in this for the 4 users and the groups they belongs to. Now, when labeling is done, if you could see my screen, whenever they are trying to access the document which are going to be labeled now, they will label as defined, like in this way. It may be Word file, Excel file, or maybe your it might be anything. So your PDF file. The label would be appear like this one. So classification and labeling is moreover is major concern, where you could manually classify, like I just said. I mean, we had demonstrated, and you could auto label also. I mean, administrator no need to do it by their own. You can deploy it as your auto label, and scanner would be help you to identify that labeling circuit. Moving further, let's understand how this encryption levels occurs and how you're gonna protect your devices from your Windows rights management. That is nothing but derived from Active Directory rights management, which is another part of your AIB. Well, email is flowing from one exchange to another, I would say, one domain from another. It helps you to protect the message body and the type of encryption level of it. So S-MIME is another feature. I mean, it's a key where encryption brings you, you know, the way it should be. So S-MIME is based on the certificate that works with a private key and a public key. Although you have a sender and recipient in front of you, but the sign of message, that private key, that only validate through a public key. And also the encryption body, it could be only decrypted by the public key, not a private key. I mean, the encryption or decryption would be only possible through between sender and recipient through this only. Well, let's take the example where email flows from the sender to recipient, where message body would be your recipient public key that would be derived over there. And when the session is initiated for email shooting, or I would say when it start to generate a session, the message would be encrypted in public key, and it when it goes to a recipient, it without having a private key, it won't going to be decrypted. That means message encryption makes the content of message unreadable by performing encryption operation. Whatever the message you're gonna send can be decrypted only through a public key. So here we are again where your data loss policy is major concerns. There might be a chances that user trying to lose this data. I mean, it might be a case sensitive. So for that, the data loss policy maybe you can incorporate in the environment where you can discover the data, classify, segregate it, label it, bundle it, post classification, you can store their properties and apply a DLP policies based on their location. You can create a DLP policies that can be recognized through your document or a Windows server or other file systems. You can protect a sensitive information, monitor or identify over here, or I can choose the location it might be laying anywhere. I mean, it could be Exchange, a SharePoint, or your OneDrive. These are the primary cloud services where your data might be landing up. Okay, before we proceeding, there are major 5 steps we need to consider before strengthening to our environment. When we talk about a security feature, you should be strengthen your credential by applying multi-factor authentication. I mean, there are so many password protection policies that could be achievable through this. Increase your awareness with auditing and monitoring alerts tool, which comes with the whole suite, and you should more focus on attack surface reduction, where another anonymous device could leads you to take any uncertain program that may be land up on your premises, could be leakage to your data. You should be agile on the threat response, where in unwelcome events or unwelcome threat could be dangerous to on premises. You should implement a risk policy. The threat might could not be occur repetitively if it is a same kind of threat. You should enable a self-help where IT administrator do not needs to intervene over there. Complete end-to-end security can be deployed, and these are the major aspects. I mean, the step you should consider before proposing any solution to end user. Azure AD Connect is another feature, or I would say a cloud provisioning service which comes free with entire suite, no matter what license you procuring. Azure AD Connect is a free service which is derived from native LDAP and Kerberos, that is from Active Directory. It helps you to integrate with your disconnected forest. It might be your on-premises data. It might be another organization that may be lying over simply disconnected. You could synchronize this on-premises to the cloud applications, not only Microsoft applications, but you can become a single identity, could be possibly accessing this cloud different application, maybe Google, Alibaba, or Amazon applications. So with the developer support, Azure AD can be your single identity to have your n number of application access. Yes, Azure has a competency to have harden your password protect, like you have a global password list where certain number of words and phrases are repeating again, like pass at the rate 123, or I would say welcome at the rate 123. These are the generic password which employee are keeping as it is, but you can customize this password list and restrict from user to entering that. I mean, it's the way same like Active Directory used to have, but in Azure AD protection, you could simply map it through policy. I mean, there are certain options where already incorporated these 2,000 words and the phrases and the similar kind of password could be restricted, and it is can be achievable through Azure AD password protection. One more concern I would like to address over here, that you can be a password free by opting Azure AD solution. And how it is going to be that if you have a feature called Windows Hello for Business, that is very similar like your Android and iOS stuff. Your authentication will based on your biometric or your iRetina. You have a application called Microsoft Authenticator based on what numbers it appearing in front of you. It will provide you the options on your authenticator to be chosen. I mean, it's your password free policy you could deploy. And thirdly, a FIDO2 security key where a token based security, I would say a key that would, or a smart card that would help you to encrypt your devices, and that will help you to be a passwordless. One more thing I would like to address over here is a risk detection engine and how the risk taken place. You might be unfamiliar with a number of anonymous IPs. The ISP user might be trying to log in. You can detect such activity through this risk engine. XYZ users could access through a malicious IP, and malware and unwelcome event could be occur at your desk. For the offline detection, you could majorly use this engine to restrict user from entering through any VPN, or I would say to enter from any suspicious IP that may be threatened to your environment. Detection and leakage could be possible through this risk engine. I mean, what n number of user have access your resources that would be come up in front of you when you go through the portal, and what leakages happen and what credential was loosed by our side, that can be detectable. And you have a monitoring tool called Cloud App Security that is a major part of this suite. Can be monitored, can have inside of your devices where every single log and activity could be traceable over there. So user needs to pass on through this risk detection engine, and the risk which may land up and harmful to your organization, that can be mitigated through that. So one of the major aspect we need to consider while we talk about identity protection, when modern and integrated UX system could be permissible through your Microsoft ecosystem, new detection of threats, powerful API, and it has improvement in their risk assessment. I mean, the risk might be, it may be based on their behavior. I mean, you could assess them on their basis on the behavior analytics. I mean, user may try to browse an uncertain or an anonymous website that could leads you to risk. But this identity protection helps you to assess the risk which might be user has taken. And you have an automated admin feedback over here. Whatever behavior is user is taking, it could be traced out and pre-alert can be generated through this admin feedback. Well, let's understand one more point over here, that is the Windows Virtual Desktop that brings you the features from a Windows Server and a Windows Desktop altogether. Well, this is a native VDI, Windows Virtual Desktop, where Microsoft has bring up, two different service altogether and club it in one single domain, where you can have a multi-session over a single computer. I would say one desktop. Yes, it was achievable in Windows Server. You can have a multiple access to one server, but when we talk about a desktop, one session was permissible only for the one single user. But the feature Windows Server RDS has deployed on VDI desktops. I mean, you have a scalability to scale up and scale down whatever compute you needed based on your application. It might be a resource hungry, or it might be GPU hungry. Some of the resources may need higher graphics or intense units. Some of the users may need more memory cache needed. Some of the users or some of the compute needed less graphics intense. Although you could scale up and scale down in minute, and it might suit to your pockets that whatever amount of application you're accessing, you need to pay for that only. So Microsoft has, to take care of this all infrastructure, whatever the compute, networking, or the web application, or the load balancing thing, all would be land up in Microsoft data center. But users no need to be concerned. They just need to have access over their gateways, or I would say their applications, by simply accessing through their web browser. We can access the not only application by multi-session but also a desktop. I mean, Windows virtualization host provide you the multi-session way which derived from your older RD session web server, and the native one which Windows single session host derive. Combining these two services all together, Windows Virtual Desktop has brings you moreover experience, and you could have a single applications working in multi-session way. I mean, good amount of users can connect one single application simultaneously. Similar way, certain amount of users could access their desktop by using this multi-session model. I mean, this is the product which Microsoft has booming in when pandemic was occurred. I mean, your corporate identity will remain same, your corporate environment would remain same, though you are accessing from your personal desktop, but you could simply land up with your corporate network by going to your web browser and have your Windows desktop in front of you. EMS suite itself has bring you to to this version. I mean, Windows Virtual Desktop needs a VDI licenses to procure over the web. But for that, you should be eligible to access this VDI. Some of the suite, or I would say some of the licenses that EMS provides you, would E3 and E5 licenses already eligible for these Windows Virtual Desktop sessions based computing, where RDS CL based licenses can be active through their software assurance. Per Windows 10 licenses, it is assigned for every users. You could derive, you can upgrade the older version of your Windows operating system to the current Windows 10 version. That is achievable once you are eligible through EMS suite. And when we talk about the customer, which he or she needs to pay for their only compute and the networking, no matter if they what consuming, they simply just need to sit, relax, have access for their desktop. Licensing part would be covered up by the administrator itself. Well, another feature of this operating system, or I would say Windows Virtual Desktop, no matter what client you are working on, no matter what device you're working on, it will bring you the full dynamic resolution. You may try to access your desktop, Windows Virtual Desktop from iOS version, or it might be on iPad. You could simply enhance the dynamic resolution over here. Some of the users are more concerned since it is on web-based browser and landed somewhere in the data center of Microsoft. Is my Teams is supported? How am I supposed to communicate with my users by bringing this service? Well, it has a seamless integration with the Teams, that is unified platform, which brings you to help you to collaborate with users. Well, since Windows Virtual Desktop was booming while pandemic occurred, currently it's also booming. It has differently located all over the globe. 44 or I would plus regions are there where Azure data center is located. More than 130 kilometers of fibers are laid all over the world, and 200 plus express route partner ISP that is covering up this miles and trunks of cables which are connecting to all over the globe. That means you have unified platform and the highest reachability over the globe, so that your communication won't be interrupted and you can simply feasibly can access to your corporate resources. Now we are at a major part of the shoot or of today's session where cloud app security is the most tech savvy favorite, where you can monitor governance, or I would say an analyze what is ongoing on your current environment. You could have a complete insight of your environment. What I mean to say over here is you can detect a threat, you can protect it, you can discover the risk which might be, you know, your environment is landing up. Let me take you to the tool to Cloud App Security Portal and how it looks like. Then by moving the applications, what maybe it might be possible that it is compliant or not. Cloud App Security. Yeah. So I was telling like there are more number of applications which are there in Cloud App Security. Although Cloud App Security can be have inside not only your Microsoft domain, it could be possibly you can have inside of your, if you are tying up with another cloud solution, or it may be Google, or it may be Alibaba, or it may be AWS. So in this test student of mine, I have a my environment where predefined alerts has occurred, and from this last 30 days I have a complete dashboard over here. What are the major threats has hit to my environment, and what prerequisite I should take care for that. Well, let me take you to the cloud app catalog where n number of applications that are marked as an you can, is it completely safe or not, or you could permit or restrict there, like in sanction or a sanction. Let's take an example of team viewer. Sorry. Yeah. So it is score 7 over here. Based on their score, I can simply identify, is it the application is compiled with me, my on-premises or my environment. Based on that, you can sanction or unsanction this app. If you unsanction this, user are not going to download whatever they're synchronizing from their environment. So certain number of compliance things are not matching with the prerequisite what Microsoft has defined. So that's why this app has scored a less, and might be riskful for your environment. You can simply suggest for a improvement of score over here, and you can request for the updation of score to Microsoft if you're willing to use these particular applications. Likewise, like I said, you can see the complete insights of your environment, whatever the activity you could trace it down. Like you can see, there are so many logins, logout could be traceable through what devices and what web version or web browser I have achieved it, what IP address I have logged in, what through what location I was using my portal, that all could be trace out and monitor all together. If anything uncertain or unwelcome event would occur, that would text you to pre-alert to administrator, and restriction of login could be blocked over there. So that's the major beauty of this product, I would say, that you could have a complete inside your environment, and could do more protective ways, detect the threats. You can control the access, and could deploy a security not limited to Microsoft domain, but the other security aspect. I mean, the other security or a cloud solution provider, you can have insights of their premises also. So that's all for today's session, guys. I mean, we have covered up Azure Information Protection, we have covered up conditional access, we have covered up Cloud App Security Portal. Whatever your questions are, let me welcome them. I would happy to answer each one of them.
I think Shashank, we are good to conclude.
Yeah.
All right, great, Shashank. Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, Shashank, for the wonderful presentation.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Anand. Bye bye.
Bye bye.